podcast where we put you on the map. This is Ron Costa broadcasting live in the Mappable USA studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. And today, folks, we're going to start talking about a little bit of cryptocurrencies and kind of demystify a lot of things that are out there, how to get involved, what they are, why companies are using crypto, etc. And to do that, let's introduce Vicky Hutchmala from the WorldTokenMarket.com. Vicky, how's it going today?
As I say every time, Ron, fabulous day in Vegas again, waiting for springtime, the reason why we all live in Vegas. And I'm very excited because today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin, we're going to be talking tokens, we're going to be talking investments, and we have one of our favorite podcast guests today. So let's not waste any more time.
Okay, that sounds good. That was a good introduction, by the way. Very good. You must have had extra coffee today. So
well, at least twice, yes.
Yeah. So let's, folks, let's introduce Alastair Caithness he's the CEO of Ziyen. He's been on the show many times. Alastair, how you doing over there today?
Yeah, I'm doing well out in San Diego. Good to speak to you, Ron. Good to speak to you, Vicky. Delighted to be back in the show.
Great. Well, I hope you had your coffee today too, Alastair. We got to keep up with Vicky's excitement level, you know.
I take an extra 2 cups when I know I'm coming on with Vicky.
You're too kind, Alastair.
So Alastair, we got a good topic today. We're going to be talking cryptocurrencies and blockchain, Bitcoin, etc. But before we do that, I know people you've been on the show many times, but just really quickly, just give a little background on who you are and maybe a little bit about Ziyen real quickly.
So, yeah, my name's Alastair Caithness. I'm originally from Scotland, but been living in America since 2015. I set up Ziyen Energy just over 5 years ago now. So it was a start in the oil and information space where we provided information on government contracts and oil contracts, mostly focused on the Iraq and the Middle East market. When the first crash in the oil industry happened, we pivoted the company and then we started going after small oil contracts ourselves. So we were looking at ways to sort of develop oil with less CO2 emissions and essentially crowdfund an oil and energy company. We built up a small investor base. We've got about 300 investors in the company now. And as we started to develop the technology, we started to go to big well services events and got introduced to the main operators and started to learn about the blockchain and this new technology that's coming along. And really what we've done is we've sort of become like an energy blockchain company. And what we do now is develop sort of software and trying to sort of tokenize energy assets. So that, it's been a bit of a journey to get here. But like any startup, you take a couple of pivots along the way. There's a downturn in the industry. COVID obviously affected the company as well. But, it's 2021 and things are looking good for us going forward. So
absolutely, yeah.
Talk about the company today.
So listen, everybody pretty much knows what Bitcoin is at this point. At least I've heard of it. But there's also a ton of cryptocurrencies that are popping up left and right. Why is there such a big upswing in the interest in cryptocurrencies these days?
I think for people to really understand it, so if you think back to when Bitcoin came around, so Satoshi Nakamoto, nobody actually knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. He invented Bitcoin. But Bitcoin operates on the blockchain. So when he invented Bitcoin, he also invented the blockchain. So, so essentially when Bitcoin came along, there was a technology change which allowed you to transfer money from A to B anywhere in the world instantaneously, avoiding banking charges and avoiding sort of international money changing fees. And then rather than take 7 days to transfer money from, say, here out to Dubai, if you were transferring money from America to Dubai, it would go from my Bank of America account San Diego to Bank of America account New York, then Bank of America account London, then London to, say, Zurich, and then Zurich to Dubai. And that could take 5 days for money to transfer. So what Bitcoin allowed them to do was this technology that allowed this instantaneous transfer avoiding all the banks and avoiding all the governments, and basically transfer money instantaneous. So that was really the technology that happened. But because there was a finite amount of Bitcoins, so right now there's, I think, about 19 million Bitcoins in circulation. When it actually, all the miners finish mining Bitcoin, it'll be up to maybe 23 million Bitcoins. So what it did is it sort of flipped from actually being a technology, which it still is, to becoming its own commodity. So because there's a finite amount of them, so just like gold, just like silver, just like oil, Bitcoin now becomes its own commodity. And then what started to happen is, as it started to get developed and people started to use it more and people started to invest into it, recently people like Elon Musk bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, but there's a lot of other institutions out there who are essentially doing institutional investment into Bitcoin, not because of the technology, because of the commodity and holding this. And that's what's driving the Bitcoin price up. So from the back of that, it's sort of taking the cryptocurrency market mainstream. And then what happened during COVID, the price of oil went to minus $37 a barrel, completely collapsed. Nearly every commodity collapsed. But Bitcoin in itself didn't really collapse. It went down to, ultimately about, 11,000, 12,000 start of the year, and didn't go all the way down that people were expecting to go to 3,000, 4,000. And then coming out of COVID, and all this institutional money, it's all driven into Bitcoin, and it started to drive the price up. So now everyone at home's thinking, I wish I bought Bitcoin when it was 11,000. Now it's at 52,000. Should I buy Bitcoin now? But the answer is yes, because if the institutions keep buying Bitcoin, because they're buying Bitcoin not to sell it tomorrow, they're buying Bitcoin to hold it for a long term and add to their portfolio. So as more and more institutions and blue chip companies like Tesla buy into Bitcoin, there's talks of Netflix buying into Bitcoin now, the price is just going to go up and up and up and just becomes like a commodity. So that's how the whole revolution is sort of taken off.
Okay, so I guess the next question then would be, if I wanted to buy Bitcoin, how would I do that? I can't buy it through my, let's say, Fidelity brokerage, right? Don't I have to have a certain account somewhere, or how do you access that?
Yeah, so the number one place to buy it through in America right now is a company called Coinbase. So the good thing about you buying it through Coinbase is essentially it's more regulated than just buying off sort of one of these random wallets where you would lose your Bitcoin. So if you buy it through Coinbase, then essentially they would hold the Bitcoin for you. But if you ever lost your wallet, etc., they've got a really good support service to help you access the Bitcoin again, So that's like the number one place to buy it.
Is Coinbase a wallet, or is it an exchange?
It's like a wallet, but they do it like with other currencies as well. So it's a technology company as well. So they offer a lot of services. So what you'll find is that as escrow comes out, so you've got companies like North Capital that do all the sort of escrow for the crowdfunding companies and escrow for a lot of companies out there, Prime Trusts, another escrow company, but they can only do that in fiat currency. What Coinbase is doing is they're now offering this ability to escrow in cryptocurrency, which means that they're going to have thousands of customers starting to use their technology and their capability to do escrow in crypto as well. Coinbase is looking to IPO into the stock market this year. It's grown so big, and it could be one of the biggest IPOs of 2021.
Yeah, so to create an account over at Coinbase, you just go to that, I guess, the website or the app or whatever, and then what happens as far as putting money into it? Do you have to write a deposit from your bank account and wire U.S. cash, or how does that work?
Yeah. So these things can just be wired straight into your bank account. So you just connect it in the same way you connect PayPal or connect one of these things. It just works as similar.
So for example, you have a Chase bank account, and you do a connection between the Chase account and your new app. And let's say you want to buy $1,000 worth of crypto or whatever. That's $1,000 US being transferred into the Coinbase, into your account there in your Coinbase wallet, and then you're taking whatever that is and buying a certain amount of Bitcoin at that point. Is that the way that kind of works?
Yeah, and then it's held in the Coinbase account. So if you want to sell your Bitcoin, you can sell the Bitcoin, and then it will do the transfer back into whichever bank account you want to use.
Okay, so it's all electronic, and did you get statements out of this too? Do they send you monthly statements or yearly kind of things, or how do you keep track about that?
No, you just log in, and then they can track the price of the your investment, whether it goes up or down. So
okay, and now can you buy other cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin from this Coinbase?
Yeah, you can buy you can buy Ethereum, you can buy other cryptocurrencies, other tokens through Coinbase as well. There's certain tokens that are developed that you're excluded to buy if you live in the US and Canada because it's more regulated here than other places.
Okay, how does the Coinbase app differ from, let's say, a Crypto.com or a Binance? I think Binance is another big one too, isn't it?
Yeah, Binance is a big one there. It's similar in a lot of ways. It's just Coinbase, I would say, Binance is more international. So for the U.S. market, I would recommend Coinbase for people to use.
Okay, all right. And then now the next logical question is, a lot of these companies are seeing the success of these cryptocurrencies, and I guess it's in its infancy. Any company can create their own coin then, right? I mean, you guys did Ziyen Coin. If we wanted to, I guess we could do a mappable coin or whatever coin. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so the technology is in place to do it. I think what we are doing is a security token. So what we're doing is asset-backed tokens. The problem with a lot of the cryptocurrencies out there is, Ethereum is a blockchain. So a lot of the applications that we are developing on, it's all running on Ethereum. These ERC20 tokens, they're all run on Ethereum. So Ethereum's like a blockchain of technology that people can invest in as well. And as more people start to develop their own blockchains or start to develop tokens, the value of Ethereum is going to go up as well. The other cryptocurrencies are coming out. There's a lot that's coming out there, but what they're trying to do is to regulate this a lot more in terms of moving away from the ICO market, which was initial coin offerings. So what came out maybe in 2018, there was a huge explosion of all these ICOs, but a lot of them were just trying to copy the Bitcoin model. The problem is there's only really one Bitcoin. You can't really be second to market to do this. And I know there's other coins that people invest in. There's a limited amount. But most of the other ones are these tokens that people are developing now, and security tokens, they're all functional, or they're asset-backed, or there's some sort of utility token there. So there's a reason behind developing them and what you're going to use it for. I don't think they'll always be Bitcoin, but a lot of these other cryptocurrencies coming out there, it's, as it gets more and more regulated, people want to understand what they're investing in. And then obviously the less well-known cryptocurrencies, the risk's a lot higher.
Right. And
so
with the
really
security,
white papers, etc.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the security token offering is asset-based. So a lot of companies use that as a form of crowdfunding for their company and to get their, raise money, et cetera. So in that situation, all these things are considered securities, though, right? So you have to have this thing approved or qualified by the SEC, right, in the United States.
I don't think it's the security tokens that they're creating. So people think, well, what's new and what are we doing that's different? So, but you're right. So essentially, they're governed by, right now, it's like Reg D 506C, security token offering, STO. So what the SEC want everyone to do is to either go through Reg D, which means as accredited investors, but there'll be Reg A security token offerings coming out. There's one that's actually been qualified that people can invest in, obviously not trading yet. But what that does is it means you've got to comply with all the disclosures. So, the SEC, when they look at these offerings coming out, it's not about whether, an SEC will never tell you whether a business is going to be successful or not. All they want to do is for you to have the relevant disclosures, so anyone who's interested in investing would actually get this information prior to investing, so they're aware of it, And there's obviously, if you look at any Reg D 506C investment or any other one, Reg S, etc., there's all the risks, the risk factors, things like that to consider, and you've got to disclose these in a security token offering, where under the old ICO thing, there was very little information. They were paper thin. There was nothing behind it. So really what you'll find is that this new word coming out is called token, and it's based off the back of that. And a lot of the stuff that we are involved in developing are asset-backed tokens. So we're essentially like, something like Bitcoin's not backed against anything, but it's become its own commodity anyway. The other cryptocurrencies coming out, if they're not backed against anything, then you've got to understand, where's the value in what's happening with them, Cryptocurrencies, and that's the problem with a lot of the cryptocurrencies and ICOs. There was nothing behind it, whereby what we are doing is tokenizing energy assets. So what we've got is the value of the actual energy asset. And what you find with these asset-backed tokens is the valuation probably isn't going to be fluctuating in the same way as it will with Bitcoin, because really it'll be based on the sort of asset value of the project. But, back to your original point, Ron, that, other companies coming into the space from a crowdfunding point of view is, they'll be able to go out there and they'll look to use this as a capital raising mechanism as well to help fund their businesses going forward.
Yeah, I love it. I love the idea about it being asset-backed and everything. But let's kind of just review this before we get into your token in a little bit more detail. Let's say, for example, I wanted to create my own cryptocurrency. I want to call it, Vegas coin, for example. I just woke up and I think, I want to do a Vegas coin. In order for me to get my idea of Vegas coin to the end point of actually have it listed and tradable on the Coinbase app, how long a process is that, and what does it involve to do that? Do you have to get your own blockchain programmers, or how does that work? Again, from the initial concept to putting it onto Coinbase, what are the steps involved in that?
So I think that, the first thing is you need to find a company that can actually create the coins for you. So there's people out there, it's Securitize that we'll be using going forward. Polymath's another one based in Canada. So there's companies out there you have to work with. It's not like you can just develop your own coin itself. And then you've got to decide, how's it going to be functional. These ERC20 coins or tokens are the easiest ones to actually create. And then it's just like anything, you've got to go through a process in order to basically list in these things, in the same way as you go through a process to take investment. So it's, you'll have to put the relevant disclosures, put all the legal paperwork together, create it so the token's able to be invested in. So you think if that's set up in someone like Polymath, you have to put all the right information that's in there. They'll have to sort of tick it off from their side of things, because we're using Securitize and they're an SEC regulated transfer agent. They deal with the buying and the selling of the tokens. So everything's tracked through them. And then, through these types of tokens we're doing, that, companies are creating their own sort of ATS, alternative trading system, to trade the tokens. But really it's just the case of, you'll have to go through the process with whichever, exchange and what their listing requirements are. In the same way the listing requirements for the OTC markets is different from the listing requirements from the NASDAQ.
Right.
But they'll all have their own listing requirements. So they're not going to just let people just list in it for nothing, and then maybe some of these other exchanges. So, when people are looking to invest in these things, that, they should look to, is anyone investing in the token right now, the cryptocurrency right now? Which exchange is it actually trading on? Which country is it trading on? What's the jurisdictions for that? All these things you've got to consider, especially coming from somewhere like America and Canada, whereby, they don't want you to invest in tokens that have been developed in other countries and listing in foreign exchanges, because they don't feel they've gone through the relevant regulations in order for them to list there. So I know everything's becoming more global, but they're trying to control this as well. So that's why this sort of these security tokens were developed, because they want them to go through some form of regulation, whereby under the old ICO market, that was part of the problem. Was when the ICOs started coming out 2017, 18, and really sort of started dying off 2019, to the point whereby you're not going to have many ICOs going forward now. It's because, there was just so many started and then so many failed, and there was nothing behind it, and then people invested and the money was all gone because it was just like there was nothing behind the whole thing, So regulations coming into everything now.
Okay, so let's remember I'm part of this conversation here, and let me see if what I understand of what you just said, Alastair. if I wanted to invest in Bitcoin, basically I'm investing in a commodity like gold, like silver, and I'm investing for the long run, and I'm going to hold on to Bitcoin. As more coins come onto the market, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, whatever, then more competition affects the value of Bitcoin. But if I want to invest in something that's basically tangible, I would rather invest in tokens and in your Ziyen coin, which represents a piece of ownership of an oil and gas well where I actually am investing in something tangible and I can see its development, and then I have the ability to buy and sell and liquidate it through the blockchain. So my question is, why shouldn't I buy Ziyen coin instead of Bitcoin?
Well, you definitely should. No. I think.
Well, that's too easy, Alastair. That's too easy.
Yeah. No, I think right now it's just like, because it's like any investment in a startup. If you think of a startup going through the process of, even if it lists on like the NASDAQ small caps markets and these other small caps markets, when they come on there, or out in the OTCQB. So you think of the OTC markets where they'll, we're not talking about the pink sheets, but the ones that are higher up. When these companies uplist from, say, the OTC market onto the NASDAQ small caps market, what happens is institutional money comes into the company. So if people out there think, what's institutional money? That's where like banks and pension funds buy stock into these companies for the long term, and it starts to increase. And what's happened with Bitcoin is that suddenly institutional money is coming into Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin's price is going to go up and up and up. And everyone thinks, it's going to go down, it's going to go down. I don't think it is going to go down. I think it's going to keep going up. I don't know where it's going to stop at. I don't know if it's going to go to $100,000 million or whatever, but if institutional money keeps going up, it goes up. In the same way, if an OTCQB listed company suddenly, starts getting a turnover, say, $50 million a year, and decides, right, we want to go in the NASDAQ, or we want to go in the New York Stock Exchange, we're going to, uplist onto that exchange. Once we're onto that exchange, it opens up to all the institutional investors. They all buy a bit of stock in this company, and they're buying for the long term. And the stock price increases, not because of the day traders and your Robin Hood guys trying to make a quick dollar here and there. People are buying for the long term, and that's what Bitcoin's happening. So people at home think, it's just going to balloon, it's going to burst. It's not going to burst unless people like Elon Musk goes, right, I'm selling $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin.
Exactly.
And so it's like, but they're not going to do that, because every day you'll just, if you follow the crypto markets, you'll just hear more and more institutional investments buying into this. So Netflix, how much are they going to buy? It's like, the amazing thing about Bitcoin is, and Elon Musk made more money in Bitcoin in the last 6 weeks than he made from his entire turnover in Tesla in 2020.
It's incredible.
That's incredible for people, and people think, it's such a smart move in what he's doing, so it's so that's incredible what it is. I think what I'm working on in terms of this new security tokens is these tokens will give distributions. And I think for a lot of people who don't know oil and gas, they understand real estate market easier. So it's a bit like, if you've invested in a real estate project and you're doing it for an investment in terms of you're not going to live there, you're going to rent it out. So you're renting out this real estate project. Now, we've made this real estate project in a token, same way as an oil and gas project in a token. Every month or every 2 months, you're getting rent back. So you're basically have a token, and as people stay in this real estate token, you get distributions back. So in oil and gas, as it produces oil, every 6 weeks you get a check. Now, the way we're working it is you can either get it in fiat currency, which is US dollars or euros, or you can get it in Ethereum or Bitcoin. So these tokens that we'll develop are providing distributions. And the same way, if you invest in a real estate token, you can get this token every 6 weeks or every 8 weeks. As they start to collect rent from it, you'll get distributions back. whereby things like Bitcoin's not giving you distributions, it's a bit like a dividend, really. What they're doing is, you're investing in this asset that's going to increase in value in the same way as you invest in gold,
Yeah, it seemed just from our conversation here, a lot of times people just don't understand what's going on. And Bitcoin was something very confusing. Blockchain was very confusing. Tokens very confusing, and people just didn't understand. Once you get people like Elon Musk and that invest in something, then it gets everybody's attention, and everybody wants to do the same thing. But I don't know. I would think that tokens are a little more fun to invest in than coins. Well, Bitcoin. And I don't think that
it's a long-term
tokens are going to
investment,
affect
Bitcoin.
them.
So to me, it's like if you invest in Bitcoin, you want to invest in it and hold on to it. Elon Musk's the richest guy in the world. So it's like if he's investing in it, then he's not investing. And it's not like he's investing like $50. It's like $1.5 billion. So it's like 10%
a considerable amount.
So it's
right.
So it's So he's putting a considerable amount, and he's talking about increasing his investment into Bitcoin going forward to pay for his spaceships that seem to crash all the time.
Right.
Isn't it funny? All of a sudden they're crashing.
Let me piggyback on something that we talked about before, Alastair. If I wanted to buy some of your tokens, your Ziyen coin, first of all, would I be able to buy this off like a Coinbase app, or how do I actually do that?
So we're selling it right now. So the ERC20 tokens right now, if you buy them from us, it's just investment directly to the company. You have to set up a MetaMask wallet, and then we mint the tokens and put them into your wallet. And there's a website called Etherscan that you can log into. You can see your investment on the blockchain. When you're coming to sell these tokens, so right now there is a number of key players in the security token market about to launch their ATSs, which are alternative trading system. So up until last year, there was only really T0 and Open Finance were the two that were able to trade security tokens. Now, North Capital and Securitize and a number of other players as well, they're about to launch their ATSs, alternative trading systems, and that's really just a two-way market space to trade these tokens. So, and then it becomes a bit more, and they should be launched in the, Q2. So in the next 3 months, the capability for people to sell these tokens once they've had the holding periods up, you'll be able to sell them as well. So, but then you're starting to think that all of these tokens that are getting developed, they've all got a use case. So what we're doing is we're looking at the non-operated side of the energy sector. So that's people out there who acquire interests in oil wells or renewable energy farms, etc., but they're not the operator. So right now, if you invest into any of these energy projects, the money's locked into the life cycle of the project. So essentially, you've invested in an asset, but like investing in an apartment, and you're getting rent back, or you're getting distributions from the oil produced, etc. But if you wanted to sell that non-op interest, it's actually very difficult. So what we're doing is, by us tokenizing the entire project, it means rather than holding a percentage interest, this percentage interest is now held under token format. And then it creates the liquidity, so you can actually sell these tokens if you wanted to sell them. But you're better to hold on to them as long as possible because, A, the price should go up, and B, you should get distributions from them.
Right. So if I wanted to buy, let's say, $10,000 worth of Ziyen token, et cetera, I would go to this Securitize thing, create an account there, make that purchase,
that will be the next stage of what it is once it's live. Right now, you would just go to our website and you fill in a subscription agreement, and then we give you instructions of where to set up your MetaMask wallet and how it works. The MetaMask wallet out there is the sort of number one wallet. And, there's 2 million users of this wallet now. It's not like there's just nobody using it. You would set up your own wallet. You would hold your own wallet. So, and this is where the investment changes in terms of Reg A and people investing in companies, Ron, whereby right now, you get a share certificate sent back. This is different. Now you actually own a wallet whereby you hold your investment in an app in your phone. So
well,
this is taking it one stage further.
Yeah, and with that wallet, would I be able to buy security token offerings from other companies and put it in the same wallet?
So this is like your personal wallet, and then you can go on and buy as many different tokens as you want and build them out,
All right, so let's say I make an investment into Ziyen, the Ziyen token, let's say tomorrow, for example, and then in 6 months from now, I want to find out what that token value is. Would it just be going to my account that I created with the wallet and then saying, okay, well, here's what I have, so and there would be an amount there that's worth?
I'll tell you what it is.
Okay,
so and now trading,
yeah,
if they're not trading, they'll still be like pre-trading value, like pre-trading shares value. There's the valuation essentially of what you paid, but until it hits some sort of open exchange or marketplace, you won't have a true valuation for it. It's the same way you buy pre-IPO stock. It doesn't matter what price you pay for it. It's not until it starts to trade that you see the valuation. So you would just open your wallet and it would just tell you what the valuation is for each day. And the same as your Bitcoin wallet and stuff,
And now here's the key question that everybody asks as well. What is it that makes the value of the token go up or down? Is it the profits and losses of the company, or how is that reflected into the token?
So it's basically depending on how the token's structured, So for us, it'll be the valuation of the amount of projects that we get involved. So the more interest we acquired in oil interests, we acquired a 35-year lease in Wyoming to build a wind farm. So we acquired that in Ziyen Coin. So that's now in our sort of portfolio, like a tokenized energy fund. What you'll find is, and then it also comes down to demand and supply as well. If more people want to buy this because it increases the value. But for a lot of these tokens, it's like, what's the underlying sort of business plan behind it, and are they executing the business plan? So, part of what we're doing is we've developed a platform where we can essentially build tokens for other people, and we take an interest from each token. So this is going to allow us to basically scale out our model. So rather than just everything being acquired in Ziyen Coin, what we do is we'll develop a token on behalf of another energy operator, and as part of the process, we acquire a small percentage of that token. So the more tokens we get on the platform and the more companies we help start to use this technology, the bigger the Ziyen energy token Ziyen Coin is going to get.
So it's based on math then. For example, if I see my Ziyen Coin, I bought it $1, let's say, and 6 months later now it's $1.50. That 50 cents that it went up is based on a formula, profit loss formula. It's not just like, well, we just made it up, right? Well, why not $1.70? Why not $1.80, right?
Yeah. So it all comes down to that. So as everything gets more regulated, that's what people need to understand this. It's like, especially these security tokens, they're just, essentially they're securities, as you said earlier. So it's like any securities. It's like, why does the stock price go up and down on the market space? It's just, it'll come down to supply and demand, and then it'll also be a case of, how they execute their business plan.
Yeah, and I have one more question for you before we close this out. One of the we have a lot of people obviously that come to us for crowdfunding purposes. They kind of look into this whole cryptocurrency thing and security token offerings. And one of the things I hear all the time is that you have to be a foreign investor right now to invest in some of these crypto deals. Is that true? I mean, United States citizens can invest all over the place, can't they, on these things, or is it restricted?
Yeah, there's some restricted and some aren't. But if you go into Coinbase, it'll tell you there'll be certain ones. If you open a Coinbase account, there'll be certain tokens you might say, oh, yeah, I want to invest in that. And it'll say investment available, but not within the US and not within Canada. And then in order for you to open an account, you've got to be given your, passport or ID or something in order to, and that'll basically decide which jurisdiction you're covered by. So when you come to invest in these things, it'll be like Reg S, which is overseas investment, into US, Reg D, which is accredited investors, and there'll be other investments that'll just be straight investment abroad. And depends where you live. If you click the investment button, it'll come up and tell you, you live within this jurisdiction, you can't invest in this token, or you live here, you can invest. So they're all regulated to do this, which is better in a way, because the big thing, and this is what the Bitcoin purists and all these people get involved. I'm involved in the Libertarian Party. There's a lot of people involved in that are big crypto Bitcoin people, and they like the idea of having this essentially fund of money out with government control, so it's not heavily taxed. But really, in going forward, the security tokens, because they're going through SEC, it's not easy to become a regulated SEC transfer agent for security tokens. So you have to go through all the regulations to do that. So they're not going to risk their license just to let someone, acquire something that's not been regulated through their system. And so that's what's changing. But for the investors out there who wanted to get into this is all positive, because suddenly you're going into a market space that's now, 2 years ago, it was a lot more sort of cowboy, Wild West type thing. And as regulation comes in, and obviously the government wants to regulate this, because, if you're making a lot of money from Bitcoin, if it's sitting there, the minute you sell it and you've made a large profit, they want to know, because they want their share, like anything,
Yeah. No, very, very interesting stuff. So this has been incredible. I'll tell you, today we went through what cryptocurrencies were, how they're developed, how they're platformed, why they're necessary, how they raise money, how you get it into your wallet, how you transfer funds into it, how you invest in these deals. And then we showed you an example with Ziyen Coin about a company that's doing this thing successfully. Vicky, is this cryptocurrency gold, this podcast?
This is gold for sure, Ron. And in this 30, 40 minutes of time, we have explained the whole concept of blockchain, of Bitcoin, of tokens, and allowed people to understand it. And I think that, Alastair, when you invest in the Ziyen Energy coin, you are able to invest in oil and gas and renewable energy wells around the country with an easy way of liquidity through the blockchain. But let me ask you, when are you going to get into nuclear?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because it's like we set it up to do any energy asset. So we're actually working with someone right now who's got a gold mine. And he's got this new way of essentially mining gold, but like gathering more of the dust. So most people don't realize that it's not the old panhandle, you find a big chunk of gold. It's we're past that stage. It's gathering all the dust. But what he wants to do is, and this is really going to start to flip it in his head, is he's going to essentially create his own gold token, which will be SEC regulated, go through the transfer agents, etc. And then he wants to pay people in distributions in gold. So you'll be able to invest into his gold token in Bitcoin, hold on to it, and you can sell it in Bitcoin, but as it produces gold, you can get your distributions in Bitcoin, or you can get sent through a chunk of gold through the post from FedEx, So I'm telling you, it's just like everything is just going to start flipping on its head. And the security token bit that we are working on, right now, we spoke about it just off air, like there's Nigeria, there's Russia, there's India. In those countries, cryptocurrency is illegal. But this new type of regulated asset-backed security tokens, they're all interested to start to implement that. And the U.S. is leading the way with this. And if it works here, it's just going to go everywhere, because what it's going to do is it's going to allow all these other countries that don't want to bring in essentially this cryptocurrency out with government control, but want to utilize the blockchain and all the new technology of tokens. This will be a way for the governments to sort of regulate it. And what you could find is that the blockchain in the next 3 years could just, overtake Bitcoin. I reckon in 15 years from now, people will be talking about the blockchain and all the use cases in the same way we talk about the internet, whereby the internet started with email. It's just, if it wasn't for email and internet, we wouldn't have started, but now there's a million applications. If it wasn't for Bitcoin, we wouldn't have the blockchain. But in 5-10 years from now, all these applications are just different ways to utilize the blockchain, and we're just doing one of them, and that's what's so exciting about this. And, now the governments are wanting to get involved, and, the people who work in the governments and that now, they're all being they're all up to speed with this stuff as well. So it's not like, the governments have just got some old guys working in an office. It's like the people who represent them, are all switched on in terms of digital security, digital currencies. They understand the technology. It's like they understand the technology as much. The SEC have got a section on their website all about security tokens and videos and stuff. People can just log in and see, their concept of the whole thing and how it works,
Yeah,
well,
what's very interesting is that it's not just blockchain can be used not just for buying and selling and bitcoins and tokens and all of that. It can be used for running governments. It can be used for voting. It can be used for security that has really nothing to do with an exchange of money or assets, but can make the world run a little more streamlined and a little better and a lot more secure. So you're absolutely right, Alastair.
Yeah, you're exactly right there, Vicky, because it's like the transparency factor. Yeah, it's the transparency. Yeah. People out there don't think once it's hashed on a blockchain, you can't change it. You can overwrite it, but you can never get rid of the original thing. So as you said, like governments, information, we'll be able to, rather than everyone having their own database and we do APIs to other databases, think about it for people out there. This is one central database that we all access. And, these things are permission blockchains, but, what it'll do is create this ability for accountability. And, the voting system on the blockchains, they're going to start implementing that in other countries. I think they should implement that in America because every time they have a vote here, whoever loses blames the other guy and there's cheating going on.
Well, listen, Alastair, if it was up to me, I would have voted for you for president this year. Can I just tell you? I was all in on your ticket.
1.8 million. She was good, by the way, Joe Jorgensen Libertarian Party. Dr.
Yeah.
She was good. She was credible. She was actually normal. That's what I say to people. And my mum goes, "What was she like?" She's normal, Mum, compared to Biden and Trump.
What a concept, being normal.
Hey, last thing, Alastair. If people listen to this and want to get more information on what's going on here and Ziyen and everything else that you talked about today, how do they get a hold of you? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, it's just at Ziyen.com, Ziyen.com, and if they go and put my name in, Alastair Caithness, I'm popping up on LinkedIn, the internet. We're pretty active on there in terms of releasing information, and we, I really, usually daily about some little snippet with blockchain and stuff like that. So, informing people that way.
And as usual,
and we put it on
we'll link
Market.
it.
We'll
link it out.
Our website.
Absolutely. All right, sounds good. Well, listen, Alastair, this is amazing. I think you should be teaching a college course on this because what you just explained in such great detail and so clearly is something that, 95% of the people out there who are, quote, experts don't even know. So I really appreciate you coming on today. Yeah, it was a great podcast. Really, really good stuff. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
thank you, Alastair.
Vicky.
It was fabulous.
Yeah, and thank you, Vicky, for co-hosting this. Folks, you're listening to the Mappable USA podcast at mappableusa.com. If you go to that website, you scroll down a little bit, you'll see all our syndication sources. Pick the one you like best, subscribe, and you'll never miss another one of our episodes. And if you want to be a guest on the show like Alastair was today, there's a guest tab there. Just fill that out. We'll see what we can do about getting you on the show. And lastly, if you like what you heard, our email address is info@mappableusa.com. Send us a message or leave a comment on whatever page you're listening to this on right now. So thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks for your support. We'll see you next time on another Mappable USA podcast. Have a great week, everyone.